even though Jimmy and I aren't coaching right now, we're trying to help people and let them know that, hey, you might not be a Big Ten wrestler, but there's like 100, over 100 other colleges and universities across JUCO and Division two, Division three, NAIA that if you're a hard worker and you want to get after it at the next level, we can find you a place. So that's kind of what we're doing. Jim,
Sweet.
was there a thumbs up over there?
There was, sir. I
Okay.
didn't I
I
didn't know
got
if
you
you
cut
saw
off on
it.
this side, so I didn't
All
see. I
right.
know you were doing your left hand, but now I need the right hand.
Yeah, man, people helping people. That's what it's about.
Yep, absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Another live Monday night episode with the Airey Bros. And tonight we are in the thick of it. We are in the throes of wrestling season, and there's a lot of cool things going on in New Jersey. So we're going belly to belly with another wrestling coach at the Jersey Shore, another Region 6 alumni. Um, so we're excited to get into that conversation. But before we do that, make sure you follow us on all your social media platforms. If you're a high school student running or wrestling, and still deciding on college, check out our library of episodes. We've got interviews with college coaches from epic programs. You might just find that school that you're looking for out there, and it might be in a place that you never thought of. We might get you to Williamsburg, Kentucky. We might get you out to Council Bluffs, Iowa. You never know. There's lots of great schools out there. So take a look at our catalog. And also, if you're a runner, make sure you check out Black Sheep Endurance. The calendar is filling up. The ultras are selling out. So if you need help with that, holler at your boy. We'll get you dialed in. Tonight, we are joined by Justin Barowski, longtime friend of the Airey Bros. He's in his fifth season as head coach at Manasquan High School. He's a Division III All-American at Delaware Valley University. He was inducted into the Point Pleasant Beach Athletic Hall of Fame. He holds an impressive 5-0 MMA record. Justin, thank you for joining the Airey Bros tonight. We appreciate your time in the middle of the season. How's everything going tonight?
It's going good, guys. Thank you guys for having me on. Grateful to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing a lot of great things. We've been following. Jimmy and I send text messages back and forth with all the people we know in the programs that are doing amazing things. So we're excited to get into it and talk to you about the creating of the culture and the upstart of Manasquan Wrestling. But before we get too far into it, if you have any socials for the program, the school, yourself, anywhere you want people to find you, if you want people to find you, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So Manasquan is at Manasquan Wrestling for Instagram. And we're at Twitter, Squan Wrestling with an N, no G at the end.
Okay, awesome. And now, Justin, before we get too far, the most important question we're probably going to ask you this evening, and I'm pretty sure we already know the answer, is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
So this is interesting. It's pork roll. Of course it's pork roll. But I dove like deep into this. The original, right, Taylor, he called it Taylor. So it'd be like, I don't know, I read an argument. We still call Twitter Twitter, but it's X. But yeah, pork roll. It's pork roll.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I've heard some good debating bullet points for the Taylor ham folk. I mean, they definitely have some good arguments and some good debate. And yeah, I think it's all good. Like Dave Santa Maria once said, I don't care what you call it, just get me my sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
He
Dave's the
Yes.
man.
Justin, a little bit of a through line for our listeners, but we like to kind of make the world smaller here at Air Bros Radio, let our listeners know how we know our guests. And you and I met at a very young age. I think it was like 1997 or 96, rec
Yeah, man.
soccer. Your
Yep.
dad was my soccer coach, and then that winter, we were on the same wrestling team. And one thing I always say to Rich, and he's probably sick of hearing me say it, but I was like, Mr. Borowski, he was like the first coach that ever like believed in me, whether it be on the soccer field or on the wrestle mat. He was always someone who was cheering for me. And another little dab, you were always cool to me. Like growing
I
up,
love to hear that about
kids
my
could,
dad.
oh, your dad was the man, dude.
Yeah, he's
Like you can ask Rich. I'm always like, dude, Mr. Barowski. He was the first dude that like gave me confidence. So yeah, make sure you tell him that, and make sure you tell him the Air Bro said what's up.
I will.
Yeah, and you were always cool too. Like me and you always got along, never any issues. And
Never.
He was always like rooting for you, even though you were from the beach. You were always like the one kid that was like, ah, Justin's cool. We never have any issues. And to see what you're doing, like Rich said, it's kind of cool living through you, seeing what you're doing with the kids at Manasquan and with the program. But with all that said, one thing we like to ask any of our coaches is kind of how did they get started in the sport? So how'd you start wrestling?
How did I start wrestling?
Yeah, what's your origin story?
My origin story was, oh man, 5 years old. My brother was wrestling for Point Beach Rec, and I guess my dad just took me. Um, I remember, I remember losing my first match to Watson from Old Brick. Went on to wrestle for Old Brick, and I just remember like never ever wanting to feel that again. So I remember that from 5 years old.
What's the age difference with you and your brother?
Jeff is 6 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I always looked up to him, right, in sports. He kind of went like the football route, and wrestling was always my thing. So I just, you know, uh, my whole thing with wrestling was that I didn't want anybody else to be responsible for my success, right? Like I played football in high school, and if I didn't have a good line, I wasn't a very good running back. So I don't know. Wrestling was always there for me, and that's from 5 years old, and then going through the motions until like fourth, fifth grade, and then going to short thing in sixth grade. When I started going to short thing in sixth grade, that's when things kind of, you jump levels when you start wrestling there.
and you bring up sure thing, but I think one thing people sleep on and they might not even know about, and I don't know if it exists, but Point Beach Rec had some studs go through that program.
Yeah, we were good. We won the B division. Yeah, we had
Yeah,
studs.
we were good, and it was one of those things. My senior year, your senior year, look around the four of us that kind of came up together. We won region titles together. But even before us, there was a good handful of guys that plays in states and wrestles in college.
Yeah, man, looking up to those guys, Carnes and winning states in '98. And who did Burrow have that year? Kurt, right?
Kurt?
Or
Yeah.
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 KP.
But yeah, like Jimmy, our year, four kids from Point Beach won regions. Like that's a pretty big deal. Old region six. Kids
Yeah.
now, like the short conference tournament, that was our region, man. To get into states, top three from that region, man. Yeah, that was nuts.
Well, talking about that year when the rec program had four champs, two from the borough, two from the beach. Something that Jimmy and I always talk about. I'm curious if that was ever a conversation amongst the people at the beach or with the kids on the sports program. Is like we would talk about, like, imagine if Point Borough and Point Beach was like a regional school,
Oh my
like the
God, forget
athletic
about it. We
programs
would,
that we would have if it was the Borough and the Beach wrestling, wrestlers, or the Borough and the Beach football players, or the Borough and the Beach cross country, and you combine those two programs. Was that something that ever was talked about? Or I mean, we never. I was telling Dan when he was on, my 4 years of high school were the only 4 years that the Borough and the Beach never wrestled.
they never wrestled then?
No, they stopped my eighth grade was the last year, and then they picked up the series again after I graduated.
Yeah. So like I feel like people always like that hypothetical. Like if we combined, we would be like, I don't know, powerhouse, group three powerhouse, maybe group
Yeah,
four.
So
yeah.
Justin, as Rich said did I cut you off there, Rich?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So as Rich said at the beginning of the podcast, you're in year five. Were you guys 7-1 right now?
Yeah, 7-1.
7-1. So how did it start and how is it going? Are you where you thought you would be when you started there? Was it more of a task than you thought it was going to be?
Way more of a task. You see why like head coaches, oh, why did that guy stop coaching? He could have coached way longer. Why has he done head coaching? It's a lot. People thought I was crazy for taking over that program. I just had faith, and year one was COVID. It was crazy. It was crazy. Couldn't even work out with the kids in the like that summer I got hired. I couldn't work out with the kids. Um, from I don't know, year one, I kind of don't even count it because it was COVID. It was like Kylie talked about it being a 6-week fight camp for his kids. I went in day one, guys, and I'm like, well, we got to get in shape. So like the way I ran practice then is so much different than how I run practice now. Like kids were like quitting left and right. Like it was balls to the wall day one, like getting after it. I don't really even count like year one as being a real year because of COVID. Um, Year two, start growing a little bit. I'm running the rec program too. So we start running, we get the youth program up and running. Uh, that feeder program now, I'm starting to see results from it, getting kids up. Year three, we start to like get traction, right? We're getting, multiple kids to regions. And then last year we sent 6 kids to regions.
Dang.
So it's been growth. It's been so much work, like the blueprint is there. It's not rocket science. It's just you just got to put the work in.
It's got to feel good though, because again, I'm an old head, but District 23, when you had a kid from Manasquan, and on your side of the bracket or your first round match, you weren't sweating it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like people were ever talking about Manasquan, let alone being 7-1 and having a feeder program. I mean, that's got to feel. I know as wrestlers, we're always striving to do better. We got to work harder. We got to get better. Like
Right, right,
that
right.
brand's mentality. But you got to be pretty pumped about where things are going and how it's rolling right now.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for where the program's at, but I'm never like, I don't know. I'm never satisfied.
Sure.
Always chasing that carrot, right? Like
Yeah.
trying to get to the next level. We talked about it today in practice. Like we wrestle Borough tomorrow. Like it's time for these kids to like, you guys are a good team. We need to find out what we're made of. Like those kids are tough. You guys are tough, you know? Um, but like I'll take time to reflect and all the hard work and everything that's gone into it. It feels good, but at the end of the day, I'm always looking to get to the next level.
Do you have to pull yourself back knowing the level you competed at are always at a high level, always pretty successful? Or did you have to pull back and now are you able to kind of let go of the reins a little bit? Do you have guys taking charge?
Yeah, good question. I had to do everything. Like the first few years, like I was doing everything. I didn't trust anybody. I had to run the youth program. I had to, everything had to be done my way because it had to be done the right way. Now we have Kevin Shelley, district champ from Jackson back in the day. He's running the rec program. We have two Jersey Shore teams. So we have there's guys that came out of the woodwork left and right to support the program and coach with us. I have an assistant on right now, Andy Nur, who was a state place winner for Pennsylvania, wrestled at Lehigh. I got a coach, Coach Tracy. He's got 3 kids in the program. He wrestled out in the I forget what high school he went to, like the Lehigh Valley area, like the mecca of high school wrestling. And those PA boys, dude, they're different. They're a different breed. They got crazy technique, all different kinds of stuff. We got Ethan Zenis now on staff. He wrestled for Squan. He's a stud, man. He's a stud. He kind of fell victim to not having any training partners, and we laugh, and when we talk about it the other night, we were talking to him after we beat Tom's River East. One of the coaches was talking about like every coach here has been on a good team, and Ethan like raised his hand. Yeah, no, I haven't been on a good team.
How did the PA guys come into the fold?
So they live in Squan and Brielle, and Steve's kids wrestled for Belmar, so he was brought into the system through the kids wrestling. I got an email from Andy asking to be part of it. I'm like looking him up online. I'm like, oh yeah, Pennsylvania State Place winner, come on. But
Well, they moved from the Lehigh Valley to take up surfing.
yeah, right. Yeah. Who else we got? I have like 8 coaches on staff now. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you're
So are
able to
you
delegate?
Yeah, and I stink at delegating. I gotta I gotta get better at it. Definitely got to get better at that.
Are you lacing up the shoes? But we always ask our coaches what their CEO role looks like. Like, are you
Of
still like
course. Yeah.
every day?
Yes. It's getting harder and harder, but I'm 38 now. My hips hurt when I just like when I get up off this chair to stand up, I'm going to be hunched over. Everything's tightening up. I know why Buxton walks the way he does now, but yeah, I'm lacing them up. I'm getting after it. I like to lead from the front. We have some tough kids like my kid O'Connor at 150. Luckily, I have Zenis in the room to bang with him every day. He's tough, man. You know, but I have to put the shoes on. You gotta still get after it.
No, take it a step back, Justin. When did you, you wrestled at Del Val, All American. Did you know in college that you wanted to get into education and you wanted to be coaching, or how did
Nope.
this all come about? What's your coaching origin
All right,
story?
here we go. This no, all I cared about was wrestling. I couldn't care less about what any teacher had to tell me inside of a classroom. I was there to wrestle, and then the other part of that was to I loved having fun, and that's a big part of my story. Having too much fun got in the way of a lot of goals. In college, like you know, I mean, I transferred to Del Val. My coach is like, you got to stop partying. Like he made me sign a form like you can't go out partying. Like that's it. Senior year, right, of college, I finally am like, all right, I'm dialing in. Like no more partying during the season, like not doing any of that. Have results, right? Become an All-American. After that, I really had no plan. Like wrestling was done. I had absolutely no plan. I was just kind of going with the wind, like whatever happens, happens. Really just like I was lifeguarding. I was living that like fast lifeguarding, and then like working on like doing like I was doing landscaping and all these like stupid jobs. And I really like was trying to find myself, right? Like didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't know, you know all I knew was wrestling. I knew wrestling, I knew partying. Those were the two things. Wrestling was done. So when wrestling's done and all you know is that and that other thing consumed me. So I get consumed in this party lifestyle. My mom gets sick with cancer, end up losing my mom to cancer. Uh, and that's kind of when like this spiritual evolution of myself began. Brian Grainer at Burrow came and it was like, I think a year after my mom had passed. He grabs me, he's like, you need to come coach with us. Like, I didn't even think, oh, Burrow, like my 18-year-old self would beat the crap out of me for coaching at Burrow. I didn't even think of that. Like the universe was pulling me back into wrestling for a reason. So I get back into wrestling, start coaching at Burrow, you know, um, with Grainer, who's a good friend of mine, Brady and those guys. And yeah, man, I got back to where I needed to be. And then like still was partying, still was coaching, start doing MMA. So then it was like, okay, every time that I do a fight camp, I'm not partying. I'm doing great. And boom, win a fight, right back to the partying. Wasn't making the right decisions. And I tell my wrestlers this as trying to help them. Um, wasn't making the right decisions and like dealing with my mom the worst way possible, like the worst, absolute worst way possible. Um, Going through that, and then you know, I finally decide like my life, I need to make a drastic lifestyle change. Like, can't I can't party anymore, can't drink anymore. Like, this needs to be a lifetime decision. So I put the bottle down, picked back up a surfboard, started surfing again, and kind of went on this like spiritual journey of just getting better every day. And funny, Dave Kirk gave me a call one day. He's like, "Hey, Justin, think there's a job at Manasquan for you. I think you would be great for it." And I didn't even think about it. Yes. Yep. I'm going to do it. And then, that's the coaching story.
Sweet. That's a great story. Didn't even involve a trip to the Peruvian jungle either.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, no, I didn't have to do that. Didn't have, I have a great book on that.
What do you got? We love books about
What is that
okay.
one?
Spirit
DNA and
Molecule.
the origins of our DNA. It's about like the shamans in South America and how they discovered all the medicinal properties through DMT and all this crazy stuff.
What's
And
it called again?
it's over there. It's the Cosmic Serpent.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I heard about
Yeah.
that in Peru.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah, awesome.
So Justin, we're all about what you would say to your younger self or advice. Obviously, you're giving advice to kids every day that are kind of in the thick of it, and you were pretty successful in spite of the partying and
Yeah.
kind of going against both grains. What advice would you give to your younger self, maybe before you got to Del Val, or you go to Del Val, or even after college?
Stay locked in year round and you know, quit drinking earlier. That would have been the advice for me. And realize the opportunity that you have. I was at college and wasting money and resources and not going to class and not making the right moves and not doing the right things, you know. I tell my kids now, be winners in all facets of life. You got to go win in the classroom, you got to go win in your community, and you got to go win on the mat and with your family.
You have study halls, or you checking? Obviously, they're going to class. It's kind of hard to skip class in high school, but
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
kind of keep up with that? It's a little bit different at the college level, but I'm sure with your experience, you're kind of trying to implement stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd go check in with the guidance counselors and then they can show me like, oh, he has a 74. It's probably because he's missing assignments. So make them go get their work done, talk to the teachers, play the game.
Do the kids listen to you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe so. I
And
don't know if I would listen to me at that age, you know? It's tough to tell these kids anything.
did you listen to Coach O'Connor at that age?
Yeah, but like, yeah, of course, I like wrestling related and all that, but I remember like New Year's Eve, I have to think about this story a lot because Ocon was like, he's my guy. He's the reason I'm probably coaching. Um, to have that guy in my life in those years, I'm so grateful for that man. But New Year's Eve, we went out and I think we got like caught at a party. And he like brings us all in, sits us all down. Were you there? He lines us all up. Were you there? I looked him right in his face and lied. Nope. I was there. So when these kids are telling me they're doing stuff and they're not, I don't take it to heart. I was that age once.
All right. Rich, I got one more. I know we're on Coach O'Connor and some of the coaching, but I don't want to brush past Del Val because when you were at Del Val, it was a powerhouse and they,
Powerhouse.
they had studs in every weight class. What
Yeah.
what was it like there and how did that kind of help mold your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, we were I think third in the country. Uh just a bunch of like stud D1 transfers and my roommate and workout partner Jesse Harrington. Shout out to Jesse. He was state finalist. I remember Totten telling us the hardest part of being an All-American is making the team, is being a starter at Del Val. Um, and I've really found like that senior season when I cleaned everything up and me and Jesse just got after it every single day in that room. That was like the funnest season of wrestling I ever had. But yeah, that being around like a group of studs like that, where you're like, I was like my junior year there, like I was like the eighth or ninth best kid on the team. It was crazy. It was crazy. So that humbled me. And yeah, I guess that helped me get to where I got to.
I guess having a partner in crime like Jesse can be it could be the best thing or it could be the worst thing depending on which
Yes.
direction you guys want to take it.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
and that's that that wrestler, that athlete mindset of like, if two is good, then probably six is even better. And it's like, whether it's, drilling takedowns or doing some not so great things, it's that I think a lot of times people don't realize that athletes kind of take that same mentality into if they get caught up in some of those other things. And again, it could be a roommate or a teammate or both that can, you guys can be as thick as thieves and do things the right way, or spend maybe 2 years before that, maybe,
Yeah.
not being as committed. So that's, but it sounds like the Del Val was the old Coach Eisenhower playbook back when they Steve and those guys and Dan was at Trenton State, when they had a lot of the guys that came from D1 schools to D3 and turned into a D3 power.
Yeah, man, we were good. We were beating D1 teams. We went out to Wartburg. We tied them on it was a penalty. One of the coaches cursed at the ref or something. They took a team point away. We would have won. Tied them 17-17. Going to Iowa and all those trips, man. It was crazy.
Are you still in touch with Coach Taunton at all?
I used to run into him when his son was wrestling. Talk to him, like shoot him a text every once in a while. I don't talk to him much. I talk to Ocone a lot, try to pick his brain a lot with coaching. Just like one of the best resources to have.
Yeah, and he's slowly but surely getting pulled back into coaching, I see.
Yeah, we were talking about Cecilia the other day on Sunday.
She wrestled a varsity match for the boys, right?
I think so. I think she won too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be really good.
So I we talked about it on the podcast with Dan. My first time away from home at a wrestling camp, he was my roommate, and he was a bit older than me, so that was my first experience at TC&J with Dan. I may have cried myself to sleep one night because he was getting after me a little bit. But you have any good coaching stories for us with Coach Ocone? I know Jimmy has said many times it was one of the coaches that he hated wrestling against because he knew he was going to get out coached.
Yeah, Dan, my my junior year, I lose to Jeff Jacobs in the quarterfinal of regions. Top 4 seeds at that weight, all lost quarterfinals. I'd beaten Jacobs the week before in districts. And the next day, man, I'm like warming up, doing my thing. Ocone grabs me. We're like arm in arm walking around the Retaco Center. And I just have Dan like, in my ear, like the best guy is going to win this weight, but the toughest guy is going to take there. Justin, you're the toughest guy in this weight class, like lighting the fire under my ass. And that's one of my favorite memories of Ocone and me was like taking third and getting to AC. That was like everything to me, everything. Butler had just won region. He won regions. So we were going down there together, getting upset the night before and just like, I already had the mindset of, like as soon as I lost, I freaked out, had my freak out. But I remember going to bed that night and being like, I'm coming back and taking third tomorrow. But that was Ocone instilling that in me. Like I already had that mindset from him.
I didn't realize we had similar Friday nights and similar tournaments that year. We pretty much did the same thing on
You
Friday
did that
night.
junior year?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough road too, right? Because
Rough road, man.
For me, having that night, it helped me at States too, my senior year, having that night to kind of recover and like shake it off, sleep it
Yep.
off, take a shower, get the stench off of the losses. Have you had those experiences yet with any of the kids that you coach where
Yeah,
you're
last year. My stud lost Friday night. Same exact story. Came back Saturday, won 3 matches, took third in regions. Pretty crazy.
What's your mindset as a coach when that happened? Where you just see yourself kind of roles reverse with you and Coach Ocone?
Yeah, man. It's pretty wild. Michael is very, very, very mentally strong. He's a good wrestler. He came back the next day, it was like just one match at a time. And now if you win the first Two, you're going. Like, the third, fourth match was relaxing for him. And he wrestled great. He beat a kid, Parker Quinn from Wall, who he had a really tight match with in district finals, and he wrestled really loose for the third, fourth, and beat him by like, I don't know, 7 or 8. But then when after that happens, you start thinking like, holy cow, it's exactly what I did my junior year. He's a junior, I was a junior, same exact story.
Are you all District 23 in Region 6?
What's that?
Are you all District 23 in Region 6?
Yeah, they change districts every year. Everything's getting moved around. But yeah, we're District 23 in Region 6 this year.
Okay. Hey, you talk about that COVID year was kind of a blur and you don't really count it. And it's like Kylie said, it's like a 6-week fight camp. So you went balls to the wall and kids were quitting. And,
I would love to, I would love that video of those practices and like me just being a maniac, just like yelling. I remember O'Cone telling me like, Justin, you can't run things the way I ran things at Beach. Like he didn't, he got it dialed in when like Brick Memorial,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you said you ran the rec program and the youth stuff, and it was getting that going. We talk about culture a lot and creating that culture. Was there a pretty quick buy-in with the youth program and the parents in the community and getting behind, because like I said, when we were coming up, it wasn't really like Manasquan was a wrestling power or something you even thought about. So it was like you're basically building this from the ground up. Was the buy-in on that level with the community pretty solid?
Yeah, yeah, it's been solid. A lot of good parents helping out, right? I always say it takes a community. But like kids do every sport. They're like, wrestling Tuesday, Thursday, and then basketball Wednesday, Friday. And basketball is king in Manasquan.
Yeah.
Like, so the battle is kind of keeping the kids, in the youth through the middle school, then keeping them in the high school and not losing them to other sports. Like, I feel like if I was getting, the best athletes in Squan wrestling, like if wrestling was the culture and I was coaching the best, we'd probably be a top 10 team in the shore right now with the amount of athletes in this area. But yeah, the buy-in's there. It's definitely there. You see, we have kids placing in youth states. We have kids going to Short Thing, kids going to Triumph, kids doing, wrestling year round, doing all the right things.
Is there, obviously with the youth kids, they either go basketball or they go wrestling, but from like a soccer perspective or from a football perspective, are you getting any crossover? Have you been able to bridge that gap with the football coaches and like, hey, I'm going to make your linemen better linemen if you let them come out and wrestle for me?
Yeah, we have our heavyweights football player.
Okay.
Last year, our 175 and 190 were football players. 190 pounder was 3 seconds away from going to states. Third year wrestler, playing football at Kane University. Lacrosse, we got crossover with lacrosse. But it's tough to get kids to do 3 sports, right? So it's like we're trying to get them like, hey, football, wrestling is going to help you with football. Wrestling is going to help you with lacrosse. It's going to help you with any sport you do. But keeping those kids is the biggest thing that we need to do.
How do you navigate those voters? Because I know, like Rich just mentioned, you kind of want to cross-pollinate some of the football players, wrestlers, vice versa. But you and I both know, especially, and it might be different now, but growing up at Region 6, you had to be on the mat all the time if you wanted to
Yeah.
make it to states. So how do you kind of navigate those voters of like you get a kid who comes out and he might have success, but you got to kind of pull him to the side and make, hey, don't tell coach I told you this, but we need you on the mat all year.
Right. The kids they have done a great job wrestling all year round. We go to Rutgers camp, sleepover camp. We had, I think, 22 kids at Rutgers camp this year. I think it was the most of any team. You got to make it fun for them. It's like so different now. So different now. Yeah, you make it fun. You have to have the lifting. We do lifting 3 days a week so that it's like, hey, I have to lift. Well, we're lifting, we're lifting, 2, 3 days a week, and you're wrestling is a 2 hour strength and conditioning workout for 3 months. I have a kid right now, 215-pounder, came out about 3 weeks ago, month ago. Crazy talent, crazy talent. Um, Only came out because his college lacrosse program, Montclair, dropped lacrosse. Was training MMA at Asbury Park Jiu-Jitsu, where Harrington, sorry, Harrington's the wrestling instructor there. He's like, Justin, you got to get Kai out. And I was like, yeah, I've been trying to get him out for 2 years. This kid comes out, uh, takes second at the Walter Woods in his first matches ever. Like pretty good tournament. Lacrosse kid. Like, he hopefully people can see that. And I can't wait for him to be on the lacrosse field. I think he's going to run circles around everybody from wrestling, from the shape he's going to be in. But getting like kids like that to have success in wrestling, and then hopefully they have better success, right, in their sport, across the kid in college, like hopefully that kids can see that. And the culture is also changing in the fact that people are like, all right, they're kind of good now. Like this wrestling thing, everyone's into MMA. Like everybody watches fights. Well, come watch a wrestling match. It's school sponsored violence. It's the closest thing you're going to watch to a fist fight. So we're getting more people out to matches, and that's going to help, that's going to help hopefully get more kids to stay. And then, hey, listen, you had a little bit of success. Like we only need you one day a week in the off season, one day every 2 weeks, try to get them to buy in that way.
Have you been able to kind of use that as a recruiting tool and maybe bridge that gap with, maybe there's some kids in the school that maybe don't even play sports, but all of a sudden you hear like in the hallway, like someone talking about going to jujitsu or something. You're like, wait,
Yes.
what? Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
my 75-pounder.
come on
Yeah.
over here. We have we can help you with your jujitsu, and you can probably help us. And then also being with your fighting experience, you say, well, if this is something that you want to get into eventually, this is a really, really good foundation to kind of to set your feet in.
Yeah, my 175-pounder, quiet kid, just last year sitting in the bleachers every gym class, like headphones on, like kind of, built kid. We have a program where you can go lift instead of taking gym class. So he would do that. I wasn't his teacher, but I'm always seeing this kid like just looking the part. So one day I just go up to him, start talking to him. Ends up he was training jujitsu for the last year in what's a place called? Madhouse in Belmar. I think it's new. think it's new. But yeah, you get a kid like that. He's my starting 175-pounder right now. He's 6'8". We got to get him out of that like real slow, methodical jiu-jitsu pace, but we're also working with his style too that way.
He's not pulling guard, is he?
Not pulling guard. Not pulling guard. We got it, like most of my team started wrestling, freshman year. That having the rec kids come up to like know how to wrestle is such a breath of fresh air. Like I don't have to teach them from like, point A. Like they're already, way past that.
Mhm.
But sometimes that's not a bad thing either. They don't have any bad habits.
Right.
But yeah, we had a kid, Charlie Hunt, came out sophomore year, district finals last year as a junior.
So Justin, you mentioned taking a kid to states last year, having a kid that was a match away from states. You mentioned Charlie just now. I believe the last time Manasquan had a kid place in the
Oh
states
man.
was '98.
Yeah.
So, what are you seeing? You seeing that coming around the corner?
Hopefully this year, hopefully O'Connor can get up there. He had a good win over State Wrestleback 3 this year. The state tournament's just so competitive. So good. Future, yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
this year he's gonna be podium chasing, man. We're training every day to get him on the podium.
Do you
I see
feel
that.
that?
I see that in the future though. We have some really like we have some young studs. Our B division team is in, I think, first place in their division.
Is that middle school B division?
The Jersey
Correct.
Shore League.
Jersey
Our middle
Shore.
school team is phenomenal too. DeRouge
Yeah.
does a great job down there.
Is
Yeah.
there is there still Belmar Rec or is it all Manasquan now?
No, it's all Manasquan. There wasn't a rec
Okay.
for a long time. Like when I took the job over, they asked me, "Do you want to run the rec?" Yes. Like we got to get this thing back started. I think we got into the Jersey Shore League a year or two after, and then we had a C division team. Now we have the B and the C.
Okay.
What was that like? Because I know, sorry, Jim, uh, I know sometimes just coaching teenagers can be quite a handful and a headache from time to time. But I know as a high school teacher as well, like I don't really think I can survive in an elementary school classroom. What is it like with elementary school
I
wrestlers?
was
And
teaching.
on the flip side of that, does that teaching those kids, has that helped you teaching the high school kids?
It's like I feel like I could go run a Division 1 program. Like not run the program. I could run a practice. I could go into like feel like I could go to a Division 1 school and run a practice, right? Way easier than I could go in and run a youth practice at the beginning. I was teaching over at the elementary school too. It's different. It's a different world. But those little kids are the best. They're the best, man. Coaching them is I leave there like man, Tuesdays, Thursdays are long days, like leaving the house at 7, getting home at 8:30 at night. But as soon as I'm walking to my car, I'd say, like I'm grateful. Thank you, God, for allowing me to do this. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Um, those kids they're just all joy. We just want to make it fun for them. The winning and losing, they'll deal with that. And like for rec, you don't even have to, you can just practice. And then we offer them, if you want to do matches, you can do matches.
You mentioned the elementary school kids that it'd probably be easier to go coach a Division 1 practice. Was there anything, because I know you spent time at the Borough as an assistant coach, was there anything when you were an assistant, like, oh, we'll do this different, we'll do this different, and then you took over the helm and you're like, oh, all right, it is harder than I thought.
Yeah, man. And like I learned everything from those dudes. They're doing, they're Brady and Grainer are doing the youth over there. Like that was where, I saw it like, oh, they're coaching these young kids right after they're coaching high school. And I was helping them out doing that. But yeah, you're always at, when you're not in the head position, you're always like, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And then yeah, you take over and you're like, holy cow. You're getting attacked from all angles. I'm doing everything, doing everything. There's a lot. There's a lot. I don't know how people do it with multiple kids and this and that. It's definitely time consuming. I'm lucky right now. I don't have any kids, so I'm like able to build this thing and take that mentality of all in and put it towards something constructive.
So you said at one point in the podcast when you started coaching high school, you were like, "Oh, now I know why guys don't coach high school for
Yeah.
that long,
Yep.
or they kind of go in and do their own thing." You have a 5 year plan? You have a 10 year plan? You kind of see yourself, or is it like one season at a time?
So when I went to interview for the job, I had a 5-year plan. Um, kind of like in line with where we're at now. Um, I should reevaluate for the next 5 years. I just want to keep like we almost beat Home Dell the other night. Would have been a great win for us. Some, online Shore Savages has them ranked top 14 in the Shore, like at 12th. Um, we my one of my kids is winning 13-1, gets pinned. That's the 9 point swing. We lost by 9. Um, I want to, eventually, like I think we could be, a top 10 team in the Shore. We got to keep everybody home. And that's tough. It's tough keeping the kids home with the private schools. Kids are getting plucked by RBC for football. Kids are getting plucked, the other schools for wrestling. If we could keep everyone home, I think, we would be a top 10 team in the Shore for sure. Like next 2, 3 years.
Are you worried about that? Is that like a serious worry for a lot of the top-notch
I think everybody's
public
dealing with it.
schools?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's dealing with it. Like look at even the private schools are dealing with it. Like who's a heavyweight that just transferred to SJV? Delgado.
Yeah. He's
Like
at St. Joe's, right?
he's at St. Joe's. You just left. You just won states at St. Joe's, and now you just left to go to SJV. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
When did you start to notice the transfer of power, I guess you would say, for lack of a better term, from the public to the parochial or private school? Because again, when we were maybe a little bit more so when you guys were coming up, but when it wasn't. People weren't ever the wrestling and CBA was never two things that were in the same sentence ever. It was
Right.
basketball and cross country and track, and then maybe even hockey. But wrestling and CBA were two things that never made it into the same sentence.
That's a good question. Maybe like I don't know. I got into coaching what 2015. I would say like the last 5 years, it's just like skyrocketed. All these kids are getting together at club and everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, like, hey, we go here. Then you got kids at parochial schools who could be winning regions at other schools and they're not starting. Coaches are not paying attention to them. They're losing the love of the sport. I've heard stories like that. It's what do you want out of it? Like, what do the kids want? Like, are you going to go be a four-time NCAA Division I champion? Do you want to have a good high school experience with your boys that you grew up with and wrestle and play football and do those, small town things? Or it's kind of like, what do you want? Where do you want to throw? Do you want to throw all your eggs in one basket? What do you want? For us, I think having that good high school experience, where you're with your boys and you're wrestling for the hometown team and playing football or playing lacrosse or doing something else, running cross country, like doing something else. And uh, I don't think there's anything better than that. And then having those friends with you for life, that you grew up with and came up with. I think that's the coolest thing to do.
Yeah, there was always something too about having that small school chip on your shoulder when you got to Region 6 or you got to Atlantic City, and it was like having that pride in the red and white or the black and gold, and going up against a Group 4 kid or a Group 3 kid and putting the screws to them.
They're always rooting for the public schools. We had St. Peter's Prep in our region last year. It was insane. It was insane. Like the whole gym rooting against them.
Really? Were they good?
They were good. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
They,
Yeah.
did they,
Our
were they one
kids,
of the,
our kids, our kids were beating them. We were beating them. We
were
took
they
it to
one of the
the
schools that
finals.
got a bunch of kids down to AC?
What's
Or,
that?
did they get a bunch of kids to AC though?
Yeah, I think they were ranked like top 5 or 6 in the state last year.
Okay.
So Justin, you brought up kind of being a little bit more balanced, and you said you had to kind of find that out the hard way after
Yeah,
college. I found it out the same hard way. It's
yeah,
funny
man.
you and I took kind of similar paths in
Uh-huh.
different ways, but I was the same, and kind of mentioned before with that, but also like you and I graduated in '05, and not to call ourselves old men, but
We're getting
we've been
old,
out of
man.
yeah, we've been out of high school for a minute, and when we had Steve Rivera on, he kind of asked us like, "Oh, you guys talk to all these coaches and stuff. What do these coaches say about how they deal with kids and how they kind of relate to them nowadays, and do they find a difference of how they have to change things?" Do you have to kind of, whether it be teaching or on the mat, kind of pull yourself back sometimes what your initial reaction to a situation would be and kind of like, okay, I
Yes.
can't.
Again, I stink at that. I got to get better at it. That's something I focus on this year. Like, it's all love, but like in the heat of the moment, like, things come out and I'm raw. I told the kids today, I'm raw. I'm who I am, and I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. But, at the same time, like it can't be that every practice. You'll lose all the kids. We come in, we're playing like dodgeball. We're playing games. We got spike ball nets in the room. It's different. It's totally different. Like we weren't playing games. We maybe played like dodgeball at the end every once in a while, but I told the kids the other day, like think about the hardest drilling we do, and then Ironman live, and then the hardest conditioning we've ever done. Like that was our practice every single day. Every day, that's what we were doing.
Well, how much of that is because that's what the kids need versus how much of it is knowing as a former athlete, like, okay, maybe we went a little too hard, a little too often, and
Right,
adjusting and pivoting and realizing, yeah, we worked hard and we loved to win, but we didn't have fun. And
right.
like I always talk about it with the older guys, like I feel like I was the only one on the team that actually liked going to practice and liked wrestling. It seemed like everyone on my team hated it and they were miserable because they were cutting weight or whatever. But I mean, how much of that is the kids versus how much of that is you learning from being an athlete and adjusting and some making some changes to kind of like the Cale Sanderson effect?
Right. I was crazy too. I loved like pushing myself to the absolute limit. That was my favorite part of wrestling. Like I'm 15 years old and I get to like try to break myself every single day, you know? Um, I coach so much differently now than I did that first year. That first year we were kind of doing that. And then like I've evolved as a coach every year. Like you got to have fun. The more like if we have a good balance of it, then you're going to get the kids to work harder because they're not getting burned out, you know? We're not doing like you're going in and doing 10 high C's. Like you're doing 10 of your best head outside shots and you're going to set it up this way. Or you know, what's your best setup? Let's talk, let's figure out. Because these kids, they're getting stuff in the off season. Like they're only with me for 3 months. They're learning their style more outside our room. We implement philosophies and hand fighting and you know, I have my moves I show them, but I work with their strengths and a lot of flow wrestling and a lot of play wrestling and that type of stuff. But it's totally different, totally different. Like listening to different music and just keeping it fresh.
Yeah, play wrestling wasn't a thing in 1994.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a thing in 2022 for me.
John Gagliano was my coach fresh out of college. We were
Nice.
not playing.
Yeah, no, no.
He
We
might have
would,
been, but I wasn't.
but yeah, that we have really tough practices and then, you know, we dial it in and do a lot of technique and you just got to find that balance for what works for you.
Yeah.
You brought up having the kids for 3 months a year and they're learning a lot of their stuff at the clubs and
Yep.
stuff. Have you got to a point where you kind of have to navigate that with the kids where you're like, no, you're not going to club tonight. All right, go to club tonight. Is that a thing yet?
No, that's not a thing.
All
Kids are
right.
going to club. Like, you know, I will. Like some, you know, they're going on a Sunday, like, hey, take the Sunday off. You need to rest. You need to recover. But like at the same time, do you? I don't like you got to figure out what's best for you.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jordan Oliver. They did a clinic in Borough like 2 years ago, maybe. There was a bunch of these guys there. Jordan Oliver was there, and I asked him about that. Because Frankie Molinaro, when I talked to him, told me you have to have a day off. Like you have to have a day off. Sundays should be your day off. And then Jordan Oliver was like, I like to spike my heart rate on Sundays and do something. Just do something. So, I mean, for me, so the way I look at it, like, okay, did the way I do it work for me to get me to win regions and almost place in states, or did the way I do it prevent me from being a state place winner? And then we kind of, you know, I got to work with the kids and see what works for them. And that's where, like, okay, I can't do maybe if I did go a little easier and focus a little more on technique instead of just banging as hard as I possibly could for 2 hours every single day in the room, maybe I would have placed in states, right? Maybe if I focused a little more on technique. Um, so we try to find that happy medium.
Well, I also
So,
think too, sorry, Jim, I think it's a matter of if the kid wants it. It's
Yeah.
one thing if the kid wants to go to club after a hard practice, and it's another thing if the kid's like heads down and his dad's like, got his bag and waiting for him. And, it's like if the kid's wanting it to get after it, it's hard for me to fault them or, to say, oh, you need to take a rest because I was same thing. Like, I think as long as the kid's up to it, like, you want to push yourself, you want to find out your limits, then by all means go for it. I think maybe if it's like they don't necessarily want to go do that extra work and someone's encouraging them to go
Right,
do
right,
that,
right.
whether, then maybe it's something like, hey, maybe we got to pump the brakes here a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I tell the kids, like, I can get here's the recipe. If you don't buy in, it doesn't mean anything. If you don't believe that this is going to work, then it doesn't matter. I can show you a million moves. If you don't think they're going to work, then it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
If you don't want to go to club after practice and someone's making you, it's not beneficial for you. If you think it's helping you, that just the thought that it's going to help you might be enough to help you. That's
Yeah,
the power of our mind, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think when we were coming up, Justin, like the Zanettis have wrestlers mindset and they're working with kids on that. That wasn't really I know Vinny might have had a guy like a hypnotist or something come to the club a couple times, but that wasn't really on the table when we were coming up. It was just like you gotta get the practice and you gotta work hard. But now it's like the holistic approach to wrestling where kids have they have strength coaches, they have mindset coaches, they have dietitians. It's a whole gamut of skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And dealing with those nerves is definitely real. It's real. I think if you're doing the wrestling mindset, but you're not like doing all the right things, like preparing yourself the right way, then like you're not going to be in the right mindset because you're cutting corners, You're not cutting weight the right way, you're not dieting the right way, you're not training the right way, you're not getting those extra workouts in. If you're doing all those things and you still have kind of pre-match butterflies, which are normal, then the wrestling mindset stuff is going to really help you,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I didn't deal with like pre-match nerves. I was ready to go. Like I was just ready to go. So I can't relate to those. Even like fighting. Fighting, you get nervous, then that fight or flight kicks in, and it's like, all right, like, let's go. But I don't know. I can't relate to the pre-match nerve stuff.
Was that any
Did you guys
different
get
for
them? Did you guys deal with that?
it was situational for me. Like if I got caught in a slump,
Yeah, yeah,
and I was losing a couple matches, then I'd get up in my head. But if I was kind of doing good and doing how I should, I'd be fine. But like if I had a loss that I shouldn't have had, that would really put me on the back end of things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had it more from a running perspective than any time ever getting out on the mat, really. There's only one time they told me they were going to bump me up to 112 and I was shitting my pants. But other than that, like I don't really think I ever had like anxiety about going out on the mat.
Yeah, I think we bring so much attention to it that it's giving kids anxiety.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's more, again, from some outsiders, some parents and stuff like that,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
putting
yeah.
too much pressure on the kids and the kids putting pressure on themselves.
And we have more, access to track and going to, go right on my phone. I can look up who the kids wrestling, what his records are, who we beat.
Yeah.
We have to go to a newspaper.
I don't know. I don't think anxiety was a word when we were growing up.
Yeah, I don't remember it being a word. I think you got called something if you said,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. There's labels for everything. I got one last question for you before we get in the final four. If
Yeah,
Rich doesn't, but you brought it up, and Coach O'Cone brought it up when he was on the podcast because I kind of asked him what kind of got him over the hump, never placing in states, and then he had a great college career. And I knew you were good, and I knew you were state place winner caliber. Sometimes the cards just fall where they fall, but you had a
yeah.
great college career. You have any advice? Because I know, again, I sound like an old man when we were coming up, but like when we were coming up, like if you weren't a state champ, people would be like, "Well, why are you going to wrestle in college? Like you're not going to be an All-American."
Right, right.
What kind of advice do you give to a kid, especially maybe at Manasquan where they start off late, but you can kind of see they have more in the tank? What kind of advice you give to a kid going to wrestle in college?
Trust the process, man. The process didn't unfold for me until my last year of wrestling. The last the second to last day of wrestling for me, right? That Friday night, I was 16 seed, beat the 1 seed, beat the 8 seed, like the highest of the highs. And then Saturday, the semi slide, lost by a point in the semis and got demolished the next match. Don't even remember it. And then lost in overtime, my last match of my career. But, that All-American plaque is something, doesn't mean much to many people. To me, it just means it was like the validation of all the hard work. Didn't place in states, went to college, probably should have been a couple time All-American, let some other things get in the way, but at the end of the day, trusted the process and the cards fell how they fell at the end. That's my message to the kids. Like the process might not work out for you in high school. You go to college and keep attacking. The destination is the journey for sure.
Amen.
Final four, Rich?
Let's do it.
All right. Justin, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew it? How do you take it?
Black, prepared night before. Keats Big Bang. Hit the button on the Keurig. It's like a 2-for-1 thing. And get like my big mug and take it out.
1 cup a day?
Yeah, usually that thermos that I bring, if I'm really slumping, I'll get a second one.
Okay. Right on. Justin, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Justin Barowski?
Yeah, I don't know if I can tell people this one. They're gonna look at me differently. I do a gratitude mantra every morning and every night. Been doing it for the last 5 years. Uh yeah, that's my thing.
Right on.
Put
We
my head
get down
down at
with
night
that.
and what's that?
We get down with that. You're in the
Yeah,
trust
man.
tree with the Airey Bros.
Yeah, dude, I should be meditating more. I know all the things I need to do to be the best version of myself, and I do them probably 10% of the time.
Yeah. That's why they call it a practice, my friend.
That's why it's a practice.
Justin, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Not reading anything currently. I think the last book I read was something like Jocko, Leadership Skills and Tactics. I listen to everything, country, rap. We have techno Tuesdays. Throw on house music and listen to house music in the room. Um, I've enjoyed listening to you guys, Nucci and Ocone and Kylie. Yeah, but that's about it.
Do you control the aux cord in the room most of the time?
Yes,
Yeah, it's a must.
it's a must. Yeah.
I hear
I,
you.
I'd let the other I'd let sometimes I'll let the other guys have it.
But not the kids.
No, like yeah, sometimes I
Oh,
let the
really?
kids have it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the yeah, that's things are different, man. Things are different.
Right on. Well, I mean, we talked about a lot of things, Justin, overcoming some things, putting some things to the side, being a better person. But the question we ask all our guests to end the episode is, do you have a guilty pleasure?
Call of Duty.
Okay. All right.
Xbox Call of Duty. I'm gonna fire up the sticks probably in a little bit. I play like 10, 20 minutes and that's my thing.
Okay. Right on. We respect that. We've had a couple gamers. Do you have a gamer chair?
No, but I'm actually sitting at my girlfriend who I live with. She is starting a new job, so we have like this new desk that actually worked out perfectly. It got set up like 2 days ago. Sitting in
Nice.
this chair that seems like it could be a really good gamer chair.
Okay. You ever dabble in the VR at all?
My little cousin had one. I put it on. It was wild.
Is it?
Yeah, wild.
Okay.
I see why people are like in videos like punching holes through their TV. You know,
Oh, dude. People running head first into
dude,
refrigerators.
it's crazy. Yeah, I could never. I wouldn't allow myself to get that deep. Be in a VR headset for 3 hours.
Have you been playing Call of Duty for a long time?
Yeah, man. Like
Yeah.
I think before it was live, before you could play like online, you just had
Okay.
to play the campaign.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Do you have a squad you play with or anything?
No, solo. I just play solo.
Okay.
No headsets, just solo and team deathmatch. That's my thing.
All right. Right on.
Justin, thank you so much for your time. Like we've said a couple times, we love watching what you got going on with the kids, and we know they're in good hands. So keep it up, and just know you got two dudes in the South that are always cheering for you.
Sweet guys. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Absolutely, Justin. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Good luck tomorrow against the Panthers.
Yeah, we'll need it. Say a prayer for us.
We got one foot on the Borough side, 1 foot on the Manasquan side for sure.
Nice.
All right, y'all. We do appreciate you joining us tonight. We will be back next week. We got some college coaches joining us from the cross country perspective. So stay tuned for those episodes. Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We got some audio releases coming out tomorrow and Friday. And yeah, we appreciate you following along on this journey with us. And make sure you give Justin and the Warriors a follow over on their socials at Manasquan High School. Until next time.